I'm Dr. Jennifer Caudle. Karen Friedman is walking us through the biggest game changers for public speaking. So, Karen, being nervous is pretty normal, but what can people do to calm their nerves before speaking?
So the place to start is ask yourself, what's the worst that can happen? If I forget something, will I be fired? If I leave something else, will my boss think ill of me forever? And the answer is no. And the reality is that it feels worse to you than it does to anybody else, and they probably don't even know that you skipped a slide. So think about really knowing your material. And one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is don't memorize. Because what happens when you memorize is you're so stuck on where you're going that you're not in the moment. And that's really how you trip yourself up. And then it makes you even more nervous. So think of it as internalizing. Practice out loud over and over again. Get to know your material so you internalize it and you can talk about it, and don't worry about saying it the same way twice because you won't. You'll always say it differently.
So, Karen, are there any other things that we can do to help manage our nerves before and during a speech?
The single biggest thing you can do is prepare. The more you know something, the better you're going to feel about it. And while we say don't memorize, I do want you to really know the open and the close. When you know the open, you come out strong. And if you do well, then you kind of have this rhythm going. And when you know the close, that will help you to not ramble at the end and to end strong, to end on a message. A few other really basic things that you can do. Number one, stay hydrated so your voice isn't cracking and you don't feel like you're gasping for air. And finally, I always advise people in person and virtually get to the room early. So if you get to a room early and you're shaking hands back in the day when we were allowed to do that, or you're greeting people and you're saying, nice to meet you. Where are you from? How long did it take you to get here? All of a sudden, when you do get in front of that room, it doesn't feel like you're talking to strangers. And I think that's a calming effect. The same thing virtually. Do that technical check. Make sure that you feel comfortable that the audio is working and the lighting's good. And if there's a lot of people who sign into that Zoom room early and they're in their little boxes, you might talk with them as well. Hey, I love your background. That is such a cool piece of art. Where did that come from? Same thing. And then when you actually get going with your program, you feel a little bit more relaxed.